The reason why it's called Excavation is because it's a continuation of the first album, really, and the themes in that, and the journey of this character who's died, and now the next place he's going, and his journey is like he's leaving somewhere, he's being excavated, so he's moving from one place to another. And I just thought, with the themes of afterlife and death and everything, it's pretty succinct, and it sums up everything that I wanted it to. And making the record was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I didn't really have situations in mind which I then would score. It was more like I'd sort of conduct experiments, and then you sit and listen to something looping for hours and hours, and then suddenly you start to think of different images and different situations and scenarios. But if you've already got the main theme cemented, then it's easy for something to kind of grow around that, and to sort of gestate and whatever else. So it's it's more of like I see it as like a struggle. It's more like a sort of odyssey or something that this person's going on. So that's why the album's sort of quite dynamic, and there's a lot of different shifts and stuff like that. And I've got a pretty rigid work ethic. I start really early in the morning, and and I treat it like it's my job. So when you're sort of around that for like 8 hours a day, it's pretty physically and emotionally affecting and draining. And there'd be days when if you realize you haven't left the house or even stood up for 6 hours, then but on top of that you've also been listening to these things kind of looping round and round, and having these the images that it presents, and then the story that you want to tell. It's like you kind of end up in that world, you become the character. So I think I've just got something in me that seeks out the kind of darker aspects of stuff, and I'll try and write stuff that is maybe a bit lighter in tone, but it never seems to work really. So I just think it's a natural thing that like a predisposition or something, I guess. I don't know. It's not easy to kind of just switch off and then go meet your friends and have a drink, or it's quite stressful. There's lots and lots of different things that can contextualize what you do, and with something like making music, it extends to way more sort of situations. So coming out and playing shows, for example, is one way where you can actually see your music feeding back, and and you see the reactions that people are having and how it works in different spaces, and and when you hear it at those volumes, and it makes you feel differently as well. And by doing those things, then you kind of the whole thing it feeds back into you, and it gives you a much sort of clearer idea of who you are and what you're doing, and why you do things as well. Because it's one thing to be one person in a room making something, but as soon as you take that thing out of its context, well, does it still work, or does it have the same connotations, or does it then start to take on different meanings and things like that. So I think it's just about I don't think you ever fully sort of find your voice. I just think you've got to be perceptive about the different kind of journeys that you're going on, and where you're actually taking things. And the one thing for me with music is, and well, anything that I do is I never want to feel comfortable. I never really want to feel like I know what it is that I'm doing. If I can put myself in a situation that puts me out of my comfort zone, then I feel that's the only way that you really learn. And by placing yourself in a situation where you have to act sort of impulsively, or you then really start to figure out who you are and how you react to things, and you find out things about yourself that you didn't necessarily know, I think. The workshops in prisons, that basically came around through just through a friend of mine who's also a really talented musician. It was a long time ago that I started, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was before I was really busy doing shows and things like this. So and he knew I was in need of some cash, so he said, do you want to come and do these workshops with me? And I'm not the most confident person in the world, so I said, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I'm sort of loud enough or confident enough. And he was like, well, this is the perfect thing for you to do. You should take yourself like I was saying earlier, like take yourself out of your comfort zone and do something, you know, that's going to rattle you up a bit. And so I took him up on it, and you know, and it was just incredible, because on top of all, you know, the worries about me personally, you know, I've never been in a prison before, and these guys, it's like 13 to 18-year-olds. It's just young offenders, and the unit we were doing it on at the time was like a special unit for 30 kids who were like special cases, you know, so they'd done like really terrible things, and they had to be shielded from other prisoners because, you know, it'd be too dangerous for them to be in a large prison. So on top of that, you know, I had the worry about, well, whoa, like what are these kids going to be like, you know, and like sort of moral issues, you know, like is it right for me to be going in there and teaching these children and giving them opportunities that, you know, even kids in like private schools don't even get, you know. But then, you know, on the first day when I met them, you realise that you know, they're just children, and they're really scared, and you know, and there's many different reasons why people do things that they do, and you can't just blanketly black and white say, you know, this person deserves to be, you know, put in a black hole and no one pay attention to them. They're still human beings and they still have feelings, and you know, and it's I feel like we're doing a worthwhile thing, you know, we're teaching them skills, you know, because a lot of them said to me, well, you know, what's the point in this? Like nobody's going to employ me when I come out, and it's like, well, you know, we're teaching them skills that they, you know, they can be self-employed, or you know, they can work in studios and do things where, you know, they don't have to go and work for people who are going to be so prejudiced and things like that. But the music we have to do is quite tailored, because, you know, I can't come in and do things like this, what, you know, what I would normally do. I mean, we've done like presentations where we all sort of play them what we do in our daily lives, and when it's come to my stuff, they've all had pretty blank expressions, to be fair. So most of them, you know, they want to do like rap music and grime and, you know, electronic things and stuff like that. So it's mainly been like teaching them how to program, you know, drum beats and synths and stuff like that. But it's really interesting. I think the kind of person that I am and the way that I make music, like I try and draw inspiration from everything, you know, and I don't really, I view my sort of career as being, you know, I want it to be a long one. I don't want to be someone who just, you know, everyone talks about for like a week and then it goes away, and for me it's not superficial, you know, so when I'm making stuff, I'm not thinking about, you know, like what's trendy or what people are going to like. It's more about like just kind of getting feelings and, you know, just being in touch with what's happening around you and how you can filter that into something. And I think, you know, I've always said that music, like a big important part of making music to me is that the music's honest, and I think that comes down to the way that it filters like from here to, you know, to coming out. And if you're only concerned with superficial reasons for making music, then ultimately your music's going to be very superficial. But, you know, if it boils down to something deeper than that, then hopefully people will pick up on it and it'll last a bit longer. I'd see myself working in other different mediums, because I'm not the type of person, you know, I don't really see myself as just a musician or a composer. I just see myself, you know, and I don't mean this in an egotistical way, but I just see myself as an artist. You know, I make art. So, you know, and I studied that for my degree, and it's something I'm interested in, you know, so many different things. So, but you know, I want to do stuff. I'm sort of developing ideas for like sort of sonic sculptures and stuff like that. So yeah, I want to be like multidisciplinary basically, and I've got ideas, and you know, and I'm up for collaborations, and yeah, I'm just pretty open to seeing what's out there and who wants to work with me, and you know, yeah, just giving something else to people.